It's time for the Sonic Adventure DX review for the Gamecube. This was Sonic's first 3D game. Well, Okay, so it wasn't, but this game kicks the crap out of 3D Blast. DX was a port from the original Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast, and actually, the original Sonic Adventure was my very first video game I owned, and I loved it. But this is the DX version. For those of you who don't know, DX means Director's Cut, which means they've added in a few extras that the original didn't have. The main story of the game is about how Robotnik is trying to take over a city with the help of Chaos, the god of destruction. There are 6 playable characters in this game that include Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, a behemoth of a cat named Big, and even one of Dr. Robotnik's robots, E-102 Gamma. When you first start a file, you are forced to play as Sonic, but as you go through Sonic's story, you will meet up with the other characters which will unlock them. Each character has their own story, but they're all a part of the main story. There are 2 modes of playing. There's the adventure field where you can run around in a non-linear area to get to the next levels and solve minor puzzles. And there's the action stages, which are the stages you have to go through to complete the game. Each character has their own individual style of playing through a level. Like Sonic's levels are what you would expect. Get to the goal by killing off enemies and running through loops and crazy elements of the stage. Tails' levels are very similar to Sonic's, only you're mainly racing Sonic to the end of the level. Plus, they're much shorter and easier to beat than Sonic's. Knuckles' levels take a different path. In each level, you have to find 3 pieces of the Master Emerald. There are still enemies around you, but Knuckles' levels are more of a scavenger hunt than anything else. Amy's levels are similar to Sonic's, only they're much slower paced because of Amy's lack of speed. But to sort of make up for this, she is constantly being chased by one of Robotnik's invincible robots that you have to avoid. It's not really invincible, but half of the dilemma of each of her levels is to avoid it. Big's levels are the most boring levels out of all the characters. You know what he does? He fishes for his friend, Froggy. It's not just the fishing that's boring, it's also that he is very slow, and sometimes you will have to do certain things in a level to fish for Froggy, which can be very dull due to certain circumstances. Thank God he has very few levels, because if you want to complete the whole game, you have to complete all of his levels just like every other character. E-102 Gamma's levels are similar to Sonic's, only they're mainly based on shooting off many enemies with Gamma's gun, then at the end of the level, defeating another robot of the same series of you, like Delta and Epsilon. The graphics are very good. Now I've heard that DX's graphics are a bit better than the original, but I don't know for sure. Now I know they don't look the best, but for its time, I think the developers did very well. The controls are virtually perfect. I couldn't really find any complaints with them for any character. Now the camera could become a problem sometimes, which could mess up the controls and cause some glitches which were annoying. As you go through, you will find items for each character which can give them a new ability, which can be very helpful. The boss fights were fun, but most of them were just too easy. The boss fights were usually you fighting Chaos, but sometimes you also fought Robotnik, and sometimes even other Sonic characters. In addition to the main game, there's also a few places called the Chow Gardens. These are special places where you can raise little creatures called Chow. When you kill off enemies or complete a level, you can collect little animals to give to your Chow, which will raise its stats. It's not too exciting, but it's there nonetheless. Now since this is the DX version, there are a few extras that the original didn't have, like Mission Mode, where each character can go through the adventure field and action stages to complete missions. Also, the more emblems you received from completing stages and missions, the more Game Gear games you would receive. I thought this was a very cool idea. Sonic Adventure DX is a great game. Very good graphics, virtually perfect controls, great sense of speed for the speed characters, fun boss fights, and many extras. But some of the downsides I found were 1, the camera can sometimes be a problem, which can mess up the controls and cause some glitches. And 2, while the game is very fun, it is too easy. But let me clarify. Back when I played the original Sonic Adventure, I do remember having trouble due to the difficulty in some of the levels. But after gaining a lot of experience over the years of playing video games, this game is just too easy. So to be fair, I think this game can be a challenge to a younger audience. But to those of you who are older and or have a lot of experience playing video games like me, you might think this game is too easy as well. But overall, it's still a great and fun game to play. I'd recommend it to anyone, especially Sonic fans. I don't think I have to recommend it to fellow Sonic veterans, since I'm sure you already know, like I do, how great this game is. This game gets a 4.25 out of 5 with the title of Awesome.
Yes! Sweet!